A U.S. university expelled China government-sponsored students and gave them 1 month to leave the country. Hu Xijing continued to advocate nuclear threats, claiming that the U.S. underestimated the number of Chinese nuclear warheads. Hong Kong lost its position as a communications hub and was removed from the world's largest submarine cable project. This is the site of the old city of Beichuan in Sichuan. After the earthquake and flood, it was devastated. Under the rule of CCP, the school lunch for common people's children. Look, this is the lunch of our elementary school kids. Only one dish. What do they eat? Look. You can't get a degree by kneeling. You have to fight. Return my degree. I want to study. The alarming Urubuchi keeps sounding every day. People live in fear. This is a siren every day. I don't know when I can go out. On September 10, the Huawei Developer Conference announced the upcoming release of Home System 2.0. Google terminated its business with Huawei last year. The most fatal blow to Huawei is its phone's Android system can no longer receive updates. A mobile phone is like a brick without an operating system. When everyone thought that Huawei was doomed, Huawei came out with a high-profile announcement about its Plan B. That's Home OS.
Children marched on campus to protest the cancellation of Mongolian language teaching. The CCP abolished Mongolian language teaching. Mongolians fought to defend their mother tongue. Students were forbidden to take to the streets, and they marched on campus to protest. Many local students are still being suppressed by the police. At the Mongolian middle school in Milesguo City, people fought to protect their mother tongue. CCP sent a large number of police officers to suppress students and parents. India goes to war and pushed forward 4 kilometers. People dance and celebrate after regaining Pangong Lake. The two sides fought. It is said that the Chinese base was taken by the Indian side. India continued to increase its troops. India's celebration after 4 kilometers of success. India kept sending troops to the border, but the CCP staged massive crackdowns against ethnic Mongolian students. The CCP shamelessly lectured on openness and isolation, even though it was defended Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying for a while, out of personal political interests and strategic need to suppress China's development. The radical China hawks in the U.S. deliberately fabricated lies to demonize Chinese international students. They made up false charges and even used judicial power to oppress maliciously Chinese students to the U.S. Today, we see the U.S. has completely changed, with prevalent isolationism, hatred, and xenophobia. Openness brings progress, and isolation stifles progress. A journalist asked, "You mentioned mutual respect. Why did China react so strongly to the Czech Sunni speaker's visit to Taiwan?" Wang Yi said, "The Czech Sunni speaker's visit to Taiwan is a serious interference in China's domestic affairs. China has to and must take necessary responses. There is only one China in the world, and Taiwan is part of China. This is an international consensus. Upholding the One China principle is China's requirement for all countries with diplomatic relations, including Czech Republic. The Czech Republic, as a country, made the commitment to China, so anyone within the Czech government should keep this political promise. The Czech Senate Speaker visited Taiwan despite multiple objections from China and the Czech government. He even publicly referred to Taiwan as a country and called on other European states to follow suit. Isn't this an open provocation? Therefore, we tell the Czech Senator Speaker, you crossed the bottom line. Every Chinese has a responsibility to protect China's sovereignty and territories. This is also the responsibility of the Chinese Foreign Ministry. We are not the party stirring up troubles, but we are the victims.
你过线了，维护国家的主权、领土完整是每一个中国人的责任，更是中国外交部和中国外长的责任。我们不是制造问题的一方，我们是受到侵害的一方。
Underscoring a point he has made before, which is that he wants the U.S. government to get a cut of any transaction involving TikTok. Here's what the president just said.
Well, I told them that they have till September 15th to make a deal. After that, we close it up in this country. And I said that the United States has to be compensated, well compensated, because we are the ones that are making it possible. And so we should be compensated. So the Treasury has to be well compensated.
I am a Taiwanese.
Já jsem Tajvanec.
I am a Taiwanese.
Taiwanžen.
I am convinced that it is the duty and obligation of every Democrat to support everybody who defends democratic principles and who often at times builds democracy under difficult conditions. Hence, I am very glad we are able to visit you within the framework of our Senate parliamentary diplomacy in order to exchange our experience and extend mutual cooperation.
The Pentagon released a report today titled Military and Security Developments Involving the People's Republic of China. The report says China plans to double its nuclear warhead arsenal over the next decade. They also warn China is trying to match or surpass the United States as a superpower by 2049. But China may not need 30 years if that report is accurate in other dimensions. The Pentagon report says this, quote, over the next decade, China's nuclear warhead stockpile, currently estimated in the low 200s, is projected to at least double in size as China expands and modernizes its nuclear forces. The report recognizing China's Navy, which was characterized in this report a year ago as the largest Navy in the region. This report recognizes it as the largest in the world. Let's begin with the rhetoric of the Chinese government, and it is moving up to quite heated extremes now. Your interpretation of what's going on in Beijing?
And that was quite a list you read there with respect to the Chinese Communist Party's aggression. I think what's going on with the rhetoric is, for the first time, there's an administration, a president in the United States who isn't just going to turn the other cheek, who's prepared to take on this challenge. It's 40 years in coming. Frankly, America slept while China grew. You talked about their missile systems, their military, all the things that have grown. President Trump, the trade issues, all the economic issues that you talked about on your show for months and months and months now. President Trump's taking each of these on in a serious way, and I think you see the rhetoric from the Chinese Communist Party ratcheting up because they are feeling the pressure that's being put on them by this administration.
And the issue of a Cold War, as the foreign minister suggested, between the two countries, is it not decidedly already that?
Yeah, Lou, you know, the Cold War analogy has some relevance, but the truth of the matter is the Chinese Communist Party made some choices under General Secretary Xi. He's made it clear, whether it's his military buildup, the diplomatic efforts, the Belt and Road Initiative to try and create vassal states, a tyrannical regime all around the world for a global hegemony. The challenges are different. There are economic challenges here at home. Their United Front work. We We had to close the consulate, the Chinese consulate in Houston, Texas, because there were spies operating from that place. It had truly become a den of spies. This is different than the Cold War in that we are challenged by a country with 1.4 billion people, an economy that had year-on-year growth of about 6% GDP, and it cost millions of jobs here in the United States of America. We will push back against them. President Trump will push back against them on every one of these fronts.
Where do you see this Australia-China relationship going? Because the Chinese seem to be upset that we pushed very hard to get to the bottom of how the Wuhan virus actually originated, and it's pretty clear why we did that, because we want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, the Chinese just want to win at all costs. It doesn't matter what the issue is. They want to dominate you and have you kowtow to them. That's their strategy. Doesn't matter what position you take. Doesn't matter whether you're reasonable or unreasonable. They don't care. If it's not in China's interest, they're not interested. They believe Australia is the new China. China is totally dependent on Australia for its iron ore and resources. If it didn't have access to that iron ore, certainly you'd find that the Chinese economy would collapse. They know that. And if the government really wanted to put a tariff on iron ore or to counter what they're doing now at Bali and bullying our industries, that's all they have to do.
We've got some breaking news out of China about Australian trade. According to the Reuters news organisation, China has suspended barley imports from a specific Australian company. It is called CBH Grain, and the supposed reason is because they have discovered quarantine pests in this particular batch of barley.
One big client, one big problem. They always remember that. And China knows the game. They've been doing this for 5,000 years. And mind you, might I say, it is not the Chinese people, right?
Of course.
The Chinese people, most of my family, my nephews and nieces, are Chinese, right? So it's not the Chinese people, but it's the regime that is currently ensconced in Beijing, which is another sort of dynasty, another sort of empirical dynasty that is there. So they want to make sure that they are seen supreme for the maintenance of their own power base, and for us that means that you will be seen as the supplement.
I think one of the funniest young reporters out there, Natalie Winters, but what's the story? There's a big story breaking in Beijing this morning. Mr. Rahim.
Yeah, let's bring Natalie on to talk to us about it. Natalie, the lead story at the National Pulse and all across Australian media this morning. Talk to us about why it's important, what it is and why it's important.
Sure. So Chang Lei, who served as a business correspondent for China Global Television Network, which is a media outlet that is entirely funded and administered by the Chinese Communist Party, she's actually been detained via what's called residential surveillance at a designated location in China, or at least that's what the Chinese Communist Party is telling us. Since at least August 14th, she's been detained without charge, and we're just learning about it in Western media as the Australian government, of which Chang Lei is a citizen of. She was originally born in China, but procured Australian citizenship in 2003. They've confirmed reports that she has been held without charge somewhere, an unknown location.
So, I mean, what do we know about the detention? What do we know about the arrest? Because, I mean, I've been looking at the Australian news on this morning for quite some time and can't see anything related to why.
There's little coming out as to why she's been detained. Virtually every Australian media outlet that has reached out for comment from Chinese officials has not heard back. But to understand the context in which this is happening, tensions between Australia and China have been rising for a long time now. In the short term, you saw coronavirus. Australian officials demanded an international inquiry into the origin of the virus, really slamming China for their role in it. China reciprocated by slamming tariffs on Australian imports, vowing to crack down on wine imports and other items coming in.
So this could be a ratcheting up against between China and Australia here, Natalie. But tell us, CGTN have scrubbed her bio and everything from their website. They've just totally erased her. We saw that at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic coming out of Wuhan Lab. They're doing the same thing with this woman. They're unpersoning her.
As Dr. Yan says, they disappear you. That's the phrase they use. They disappear you, right? You get all taken off the websites. all of a sudden nobody ever knew you existed. They go, no, I don't remember that person. They disappear you.
And you better not remember that person if you get asked, right?
Natalie?
Like you said, they've scrubbed her bio from the CGTN website. There's marginal reporting on it, obviously, coming from CGTN, other than if you look on their opinion section over the past few days, there's been a lot of authors they've had writing op-eds directed at Australia, new laws they've been passing, basically to be able to go after the Chinese Communist Party in their attempts to influence the Australian economy and elections.
Extraordinary.
Australia is the canary in the mine shaft. Natalie, how do people get your Twitter handle? I notice your Twitter's blowing up, particularly with a lot of Chinese expatriates all over your Twitter because of your reporting. What's your Twitter handle?
Natalie G. Winters on Twitter.
Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, Raheem, Jack, Australia is the canary in the mine shaft. That is the tip of the spear right off the South China Sea. They had that book. You got this new book out by Clive Hamilton called Hidden Hand, which walks through the whole CCP infiltration of the West, particularly London and Washington, D.C. and New York City, the capital markets. But his book a few years ago, Silent Invasion, exposed to the Australian people how the Chinese Communist Party had totally infiltrated into every aspect of Australian society. And the new federal state's gotten traction down there. Australia is a central ally in this entire fight. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. Hashtag War and Pandemic. Want to hear? No, we're throwing a lot at you on a Monday, right? We're not here to entertain you. We're here to give you tomorrow's headlines today. Short commercial break. We're going to be back with the new federal state. We're going to go around the world next on War and Pandemic.
Who represents a country of 1.4 billion people? One or two speakers from the Zhongnanhai pit. Other than that, it's concubine Yang Jiechi and Wang Yi. And those few crazy spokespersons, just like back in Saddam Hussein's and Gaddafi's time. Do you see any other Chinese speakers? Occasionally a few clowns would come out, such as the one from Ministry of Social Security, talking about GDP per capita and that the Chinese people are rich now. And what he said about 4,000 RMB per year, that bastard. Basically, the entire country has been silenced. Before there were Sun Lijing, Meng Jianzhu, Wang Qishan. Now these people are gone too. They were arrested. Now, the country only has a few clowns to speak on her behalf to the world. And at the slightest opportunity, they would say you would pay dearly for that. You would pay a heavy price. America and the West are shooting themselves in the foot. You're just daydreaming. You'll never take the CCP down. These bastards. This is a tragedy for our 1.4 billion Chinese people. And in China, the so-called 54 minority ethnic groups, 54 brothers and sisters, now the CCP wants to wipe them out. The CCP also purges its own, turning the police into the party's law enforcement and turning the People's Army into the party's armed force. Yet the CCP forbids everyone from talking about National Defense Army. The CCP claims that anyone who talks about it is blatantly disregarding truth and facts. My goodness. Look at those kids in Mongolia. We all grew up in schools. Look at those Mongolian kids. This is such a big deal. Many of our Mongolian brothers and sisters asked what they should do. I said, don't worry. The price you are paying will not be in vain. Remember, kids in Mongolia, in the West, we have started to spread news of the current situation in the Mongolia. Brothers and sisters, if you see any updates on news from Mongolia, please put them on GTV and G News at once. Add English subtitles to those videos and pay close attention. Just like when we were spreading news of the crisis in Hong Kong and the CCP's double dragon plan against Taiwan, we have to awaken the West and Western governments. Remember, everyone, your fingertips can change the world.
India reports near 80,000 coronavirus cases in one day. The United States said it will not join the World Health Organization-led global push for a coronavirus vaccine. New research finds it could take a month for COVID-19 patients to clear the virus. India, a nation of 1.4 billion people, is fast becoming the world's coronavirus epicenter. Night curfew to be imposed in Havana for the first time as coronavirus cases surge again. Nearly 200 people indicted for clashes over face mask requirement in South Korea. Hong Kong to relax some coronavirus curbs. Australia in first recession in 3 decades. TikTok deal talks are snarled over fate of app's algorithm.